Hi, I'm Gwen, and it's Monday, October the 10th, 2016. It's about 1:31. Earlier today, I finished the recording called "Connecting the Dots" or "Connect the Dots," and in the end of the recording, I said I was going to talk about white women, and so this is the recording about white women and things that we need to know about white women. I think about when it comes to white women. Well, the first thing I'm going to say about white women is that they are amazing. Amazing in their bull jive. um, so I'm going to go over the topics I'm going to look at. It's amazing in their bull, I put down bullshit, passive aggressive, and I'm going to talk about how they get black men. And in our culture, these are the fairy princesses. And I'm going to end with black women are not white women. Deal with it. So, first off, I'm going to talk about amazing in their bullshit. The thing about if you get down to it, at the end of the day, when all of this stuff shakes out, all the racism problem is going to be laid at their feet, actually. Mostly the problems of the world are going to be laid at their feet. After all of the stuff shakes out and all the finger points pointed, it's going to all lead right to them at the end of the day. It's going to lead to white women, young, not just white women, but the fertile white women. And then after the fertile white women, it'll be the older white women who are the enablers of the fertile white women. So the topic one is amazing in their bullshit. At work, if you are working and if you there's trouble, you can if you trace it and connect the dots all the way back to the beginning, it's going to be a white female at the inception. I Black women aren't capable very well of passive aggressive unless we learn it from somebody else and get good at it, but we're not very good at it. We can do aggressive, but we're not good at passive aggressive. White women are artists in passive aggressive. They get people to rescue them. They have these little side conversations all over the place. Just little bitty hints here and there, little bitty nudges all along the workplace. A good place to observe white women in their action is in the workplace. All the bullshit, even if you loud and bodacious, um, the white girl is subtle and uh, um, shy, or so she wants to appear to be. She's the one that's really instigating stuff. A sly smile here, a wink there, a little shrug, a eye cast. She's doing all kind of shit, and stirring up stuff. Honestly, they're amazing in it, and they can do things I can't do, but I watch them and I pay attention. So I they never they never cease to amaze me. I have this relative who works, and I once said one of the scariest things I've ever seen is a white girl coming toward me with a coffee cup in her hand. And I think I said something. Wow, one of the scariest things I ever seen is a white girl coming at me with a coffee cup in her hand. And I said, and I to ask her why would I think that? She says it's scary to me too. And she said she answered and she got it right. And it's because she wants to talk. And it is scary. There was this lady that I used to work with, and I see her coming toward me with a coffee cup in her hand, and all I did was feel dread because she's got some bullshit. So pay attention to that. And it's apparently consistent at my relative's workplace because that's what she was going through. The lady would have come at her with a coffee cup and want to sit down and talk. And stuff she's got to say is going to lead to some stuff. I want to lead to some stuff. At my workplace, they know not to come to me because I don't participate in gossip and the little cliques and the schisms and things at work. And I certainly will not spend any time talking to you once you try to tell me your gossip. And I'm already hip to your game. So the white people that I work with are really deferent to me. They go into what I call ingratiate mode. And I'll talk more about it. But anyway, ingratiate mode is when they feel like they need an affiliation with you. They when they notice that you're A, in power, or B, don't really like them but could be in power or of some use. So they want to be friends or want you to be in their corner. So they woo you. Woo is an old term for romantic intentions. In the old days, they call it pitching woo or wooing when the male is trying to court you or to date you. They bring you the flowers, give you the pretty words, and all of that, and then sit on the porch and bring you a gift and try to talk and sweet talk you. Okay, that's part of wooing and are trying to date. But in this terms, they will woo. But in the terms in this situation, they woo you as in trying to make you be their friend. And that's what I call ingratiate mode. They might do this to a person or a country. When white people want to put you in the position of being their friend or affiliated with them, they go through a whole lot to make you be their friend. And that's how they got control of countries because they went in ingratiate mode first, and then won the trust of the people in those countries, in those nations, in those lands. And after they got your trust, the people who want to control come in. So it's almost a 2 or 3 point hit. They tag off. It's a wrestling move when you have two or more wrestlers. They tag to get in the ring. Look it up. So when they are in ingratiate mode, they are wooing you and trying to get you affiliated with them. That's how they treat me at work. They some guy came to ask a question about how to do the work, and I gave him the answer. He bobbed his head and left. Really a simple little, almost a head bow, like a bow of somebody being deferent to the other one. All right, and one of my supervisors who's white, one of the females, might come in and she'll shyly ask me something and kind of almost curtsy and back away because I, but they always do that to me because I'm a different kind of black female. I They kind of know I see them for exactly what they are, and I don't treat them mean. I just ain't gonna play with you. So that's they're ingratiate mode with me, but a lot of times they just regular person. But now they know that I don't spend a lot of time talking with them. They have no cause to call me bad or a mean employee. They just know I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking to them. Nor do I spend a lot of time talking to other employees in general, just a few people that I talk to, because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking to black people who have a lot of white friends. Not only do I don't want to have white friends, I don't want to spend a lot of time with black folks who have white friends. It's because they're part of the problem. Look at my thing that's the dream, the oblivious coon dream, and you'll see more about that. So that's my passive aggressive stuff. That is magical. I still don't know how they do that. And that's something I'm really trying to figure out how and watch it, but I can't do it. So I just got to write that off and go at things my way. I don't want to resort to their things. Now, how do white girls get black men? I've been watching and review my little thing about connecting the dots because these are some dots. I got curious about this in about the mid 90s, early mid 90s. And because I noticed it was sudden, it was a phenomenon that was beyond what it always has been. So the first dot I'm going to give you is what I call the white girl will reach for it. Black women don't really reach for it like that, but white girls do. I was sitting up over the, I was at my campus library and I was on the computers and I was sitting over the window that was above the courtyard where I could glance out the window. And I already told you I don't really like writing in the paper. After I get it going, I don't mind, but I don't really want to sit down and write. So this is me procrastinating at the window as I'm looking out the window instead of my paper. There was this young white girl who was walking down the pathway and she came to a fellow student. This was a Middle Eastern looking guy. He was brown skinned. He could be Arab, he could be Mexican or Indian. Indian, brown skin, dark hair, straight hair, with dark eyes. But he was obviously a man of color. And she was a young white girl with dark hair, short cut dark hair, but she was very white. She had her back to me and he was facing me. Yeah. Okay. So they walked, they were walking toward each other and they didn't really know each other except through class, and you could tell by their body language. He was about 3 feet in front of her, and they just talked in greeting, like, "Hi, how you doing? You're in the classroom with me, da da da." And you could tell that was the body language of their talk. Apparently, something was sad going on because she started sniffing and crying, and he just, started saying comforting words. But she, ducked her head and sniffed again, and then she walked up to him and put her arms around him and started crying on his shoulder. Not crying, but a brief hug or sob on the shoulder, that she hugged him. And he just stood there with his arms to his side. And as she hugged him, and seeking comfort. That's the kind of hug where you seek comfort. But he's got his hands to his side. He's not doing anything. He didn't even, touch her. What she did then was to take his arms and wrap them around her herself. I'm still watching. I said, "Whoa, damn." Yeah, like she hugged him and he had his hands to the side saying, "There now." And I think he touched her shoulder, and but he put his hand back down to the side. She reached and grabbed his upper arm, reached around and grabbed his upper arms, pulled his arms forward and put them around her back, upper back, and then she held him and then she cried, and or whatever she did was, I don't know if she's crying physically or not, but it seemed like she was. And he held his arm around her like she told him to. And then they let go, and then she talked some more and whined some more or whatever it was. And then he's still got his head down to the, I mean, arms down to his side now again, and she's standing about 2 feet from him, and she's talking about whatever was making her sad, and she said something else made her sad again, so she stepped forward and did her arm around him again, her arms around him again with a head on his chest, and whatever crying or buried, crying, her face is buried in his on his body, so whatever crying she was doing, he still had his hands to the side, right? She reached, wrapped his arms right back around her again and made him hold her. uh, I said, "Okay." Up there, as I observed. And then so that part of the comforting is over and they stepped back, right? And then they talked some more, and she apparently needed comforting again, so she stepped forward and then she hugged him. And this time he was trained by now, so he wrapped his arms around her on his own. He did, by his own volition. She didn't have to ask that at that third time. He did it by himself. And I said, "Wow, damn." I said, I bet they're going to start dating. And sure enough, a few weeks later, I saw them walking around as a couple. That's how you get a boyfriend. Because most women of color would not have done that. We certainly wouldn't have made the guy wrap his arm around you 2 or 3 times. But she essentially trained him to be her man. And she did. uh, that's working for him. He was a man of color. He wasn't black, but that was working for him. They do 1,000 little things like that, though. They give little shy peeks under their eyelashes. They do all kind of little glances, little stupid little things that we uh, do too, but not like that. No, God. I had a phrase when I would be in a club. There's no more female more determined than a white girl in heat. That is, she's walking around the club with a look on her face, scouring men, because she's in heat. I was at a club, and there was this, I saw this white girl, and we already had pegged her for being in heat. She's got this little look on her face. She had came out to the club with, I think, 2 black women. But this little girl, the white girl, couldn't sit down. The 2 black women are sitting down. She couldn't sit down. She had to keep walking back and forth about something with this little look on her face. Every time you turn around, she's up walking again somewhere. None of the men were taking her up on her offers. And sorry about that noise. What I said was none of the men were taking her up on her offers. But finally, we were all facing something. I don't know whether the person on with the microphone or something was talking or what, but we were like facing forward out the whole club. And then there was this man. I could hear a man's voice behind me, and his voice was different than the usual hubbub. And he was telling somebody, "You need to slow your roll. No, you don't do that. Slow your roll." And the voice and the tone was different than the rest of the noise in the club. So I turned around to look, and there was this black man. He saw me looking, and he says, "White girl putting her hand all over me. I don't want that." He said I had to tell her to slow her roll. And I said, "Oh yeah, she been at that a while." He said, "Yeah, she must be hot or something, but this ain't that kind of club. This ain't that kind of party." He was deeply offended that the girl was putting her hands on him. And he just wasn't having it, and so he made a stop. Later on, I saw where some dude finally took her up on the offer, but this girl was, wanting to do that. And the thing is, she was not unique. There's that kind of stuff that happens in clubs all across America every night. They might not act like that when they're around white people, but when they come up to a black club, you know what they want because they done told you if you're a man. They make it clear. So that's pretty aggressive. Black women can be aggressive too, but there's a point we stop. Now, that's what I mean by they work for them. I've seen them where they literally have a man right in front of them rubbing his belly, implying they're gonna rub lower if she give him permission. If she block your view, she will rub lower. They'll do all kind of stuff. I've seen that. I've seen it where they feeling all on you. A man, they don't might not grab your genitalia, but they'll grab everything else right up to that. And so that's why I say if they get in 3 feet of a man, they can get him because she will reach out and grab your stuff and imply that all your sexual dreams will come true if you just be with her. So yeah, and a lot of people might call it low self-esteem and other stuff. I just call it plain old horny dudes wanting somebody to give them sex. And girlfriend implies that she'll do everything you want and then some, and everything you can imagine. Uh, uh, all your dreams come true, plenty of it. They're not gonna say no. Few men will actually say no, but they should say no because they're poison spirits as well as minds and bodies. So the simple answer is to how white women get all these black men is because they work for them. I didn't write this down to talk about, but this is something to look at. With only 5% of white girls wanting black men, as they say the statistic is, then that's essentially half of the black men. Because black people are 10% of the population. So that's half of the black men that might be with white women. And I'm saying if there's a black man that's with a white woman, not only should you not date that white person, you should not date him because he's tainted. He certainly isn't useful to black people. So they might have to, if they want to come back to black, they might have to purge themselves for a while. And the polluted people might have to just hump each other for a while until they cleanse themselves of the whatever that taint is that's in white people at this time. Because it's a spiritual taint. They're poisoned. They are poisoned. There's something wrong. There's something in there that's wrong, and I don't want us to get it. And it doesn't need to be in the community. And it's on the spiritual level as well as the way it's manifesting out here physically. It's bad wrong. If I was gonna save this for another tape, and I might go into it later. Um, when they were talking about when I was talking about the animal porn stuff, the first time I heard about it, well, if I want to connect the dots, and I heard about it when I was very young because my family would let me read any dirty book I wanted to. And one of the dirty books I read when I was around 11, 12, or 13 was about bestiality. I didn't believe people were actually doing it, or if they were on the fringes and so rare that it was just, mostly amusing, just funny. But then around about 20 years old or so, or 22 or 23, my early years in the Air Force, there was another book I read about such things. I think women having sex with dogs. I didn't really believe that either, but it was always just in the back of my mind. It was just something silly, and I thought they were on the fringes too. So the next dot comes up is when I'm watching General SETI, and he's telling about, he essentially said, not only should you not have sex with white people, you shouldn't even be around them. Shouldn't even be around them, not even the babies. And he was showing these slides of women doing freaky stuff, and one of them was doing oral sex on a dog. I put it in the back of my mind and thought he was exaggerating. I didn't. I believed it was, but it was just like one person in the whole planet. And he was talking about how many it was and stuff, but I just put it aside and put it in the back of my mind because I didn't want to believe it. A few months later, or about a year later, excuse me, Cyn, CYN, I think her other name might be Cynthia G or something like that. Anyway, she was giving a talk about the man who was jailed for raping a dog that he killed. I put that in the back of my mind too. Then a few months later, there was another one, or a few weeks later, there was another incident. I think this man was raping a goat, and his neighbors called, and the police came out there, but they gave him a citation, more or less. And I said, well, and then something else came on a few weeks later, talking about the lady that Sin was given to talk about, where the lady was talking about 10 reasons to have sex with your dog. And there was a picture of her, and she looks like a daycare worker, or a nurse's aide. And that's when I decided to look it up because that's too many. That's not fringe when you get two or three within a few months. So I decided to actually go look, and I did. Sin and the general were not exaggerating. There was no exaggeration. In fact, they understated it. There are porn page after porn page of people having sex with animals. There are men sticking their penises in the back of chickens. Go look. Spend as much time as you want to on that look. Come back a few months later, spend as much time as you want to look and see, but then don't go anymore because it's poison too. That goes in your psyche as a poison. So you don't want to keep exposing yourself to it. But so don't look a bunch of times. Just go once, twice, and if you do go a third time, it's to show somebody else. But you look, they can see it, but don't you look anymore because they can't go into your mind. That's where the mental viruses get uploaded, is through what we see. So we don't need that mental virus. But I can't tell you what was happening. There was a man who did anal intercourse on a dog, a female dog and a male dog in different times. The male dog, I looked at the dog's face, and all the dog did was be ashamed. You could tell the dog was ashamed because he just got humped by a man. Um, what happened with the newspaper article that was online was that the man had killed the dog he had raped, and the dog, he had had his neighbor's dog, a relative's dog, that he was supposed to be dog sitting, and the dog. It was said that the dog, the owner said the dog couldn't poop right for a week, and they didn't know what was wrong. They thought he ate something wrong, but in fact the man had raped him. And so the last time he raped him and he killed it because apparently he was angry because he was ruined for having sex with females. Um, the problem is with all of that is that in some states this is indeed not an illegal action. In some of the states in America, it's not considered illegal. I looked it up. Several states, in fact, just don't have a law on the books for it. Most states do have a law saying, in varying degrees, that say that not supposed to do that. But a lot of states did. I mean, a lot of states don't have a thing about it, and something about Canada not having nothing on it, or not, it's not illegal in Canada. I don't think. I have to look that up again if I feel like it. I don't want to look it up. You look it up if you want to know. Um, one of the article was about the man who got called on because he was having sex outside with this goat. Well, there were people humping a goat on this one. And so varying actions with domestic animals, like horses, cows, um, dogs, apparently a cat or two. Some man is trying to get oral sex from a cat, and there's no way in hell if I had any sex, any kind of thing like that, I'm gonna let something with sharp teeth come at it or claws. But this pervert did, and some of the perverts look like ordinary people. And these videos are through the ages. Like some look like they were made in the 60s and 70s, 80s, 90s, throughout time. But they're page after page after page on website after website after website. And so not only is it not illegal in some states, it's apparently a great demand for it. And that's the problem. Bigger problem. Well, two big problems. The demand. That is, you don't have that to market unless you have a demand. This demand is across a bunch of people. That is a bunch of households, a bunch of potential customers. And that's the problem. That is more pervasive than we know because you don't have that kind of a demand unless you have, I mean, you don't have that kind of supply unless you have demand. Okay, that's the first problem. Second problem is that these animals are at their mercy. They can beat them, they can kill them, they can do anything they want to them. So if black people ever got at the white people's mercy again, then that animal is going to turn into your toddler or your young son or your young daughter. Okay? There are women trying to get the dogs to hump them. I tried to see it because they Because my brain was trying to fight against that being real. So I said, "Oh, that dog can't hump that lady. Why are they acting like that? That's silly. That's Photoshop. They ain't really doing that." Finally, the dog will get, if they do it right, to get penetration and actually go inside of the female. It could be in the anus or in the vagina. And that's when I decided that the modern day dog is a distortion from a natural dog. Because I think that these dogs have been inbred and selectively bred, that they aren't like a natural dog would be. Because these aren't the, I just don't think they're like a real dog would be. They're certainly not like a wolf. A pet or animal that's at your mercy doesn't have any business being subjected to your rape. And that's what these people do. And the videos that we see, I mean, I think I went on there twice in over the period of 6 months. Um, One of the videos I saw or didn't see was one I clicked on and it said this one has been banned. And I said, after all the other junk I done seen, what in the heck could possibly be banned? And then I thought about it. What was banned, and I'm not sure about this one, what was actually on there, but what was banned, I decided was those first times where the animal wasn't broken in and willing to be docile when you inserted some body part into it. The animals that you see on these videos are like the, if you use your common sense, would be like the fourth or fifth or sixth time that they were penetrated and were, because that's by then they're broken in and willing to be docile while you rape them, or while the, and these are 99.9999% white people. 99.99999% white people. You might see some South Americans on there and some Asians. You might see a few black men. Might even see a dark skinned, straight haired woman. But for the most part, absolutely 99.99999% is white. And see, this is for white people to watch, white males specifically. Nothing, I don't think females even get a kick out of that stuff, watching it. But these silly females were on their hands and knees trying to get humped by a dog, and the male that's in the room with them, it's at least three people in the room. One is filming it and another one is helping it. And what I'm getting at is that it's not a willing act if you got to put it on a collar and hold it. Like, for example, the lady had a dog on a leash and she's holding his face to her crotch and, getting it to lick. That could be your son. That could be your daughter, your young child, if you're ever at their mercy again. So, what brought that on was, I was talking to my relative, and we were talking about a possible race war. And now what I said to her was, there are things worse than dying, because I want every, if we have a race war, and if we lose, I want all of it. I want us annihilated. I want us dead. I don't even want our DNA left. I don't want no part of nobody black on earth if we lose a race war, because there are things worse than being dead. This is your 6 month old who's being raped by them. This man, one man was had a brown dog and he's between her legs humping away. First off, female dogs don't really like sex. They don't. They only even tolerate sex when they're in heat and wanting to be pregnant. So they don't have sexual desire. Sexual desire is usually for the male dog, and he runs around wants to hump everything. But a female dog don't have sexual desire. It's an inconvenience that she tolerates because she wants to be pregnant. So this dog is sitting there patiently waiting on this man to finish humping on her, and he's between her legs humping away. That could be your toddler. If that child is at white people's mercy, they won't have no compulsion against raping something that's dependent on them. And a pet is wholly dependent on whoever their owner is. and they can do anything they want to that pet. Do you think they won't do that to your child or you or your husband? So that's why I say if there's ever a race war, I want black people annihilated, all of us, because there are things worse than dying, and that's one of them. So I'm sorry to get off subject, but what I'm saying is these ain't the right kind of people. These ain't the same kind of people as we are. Okay, and we can't afford to lose a race war with them. And what I'm talking about is how poisoned they are. Because if you and I do suggest you go look, spend about 3 or 4 hours to look to your heart's content to whatever action you create are curious about, and see it with your own eyes. Now, I grant that these are professionals. Some of them are professional people, because some of the people recur and they put on these ridiculous outfits to um, make, I don't know what the hell they put the stupid clothes on for, but they try to make the film entertaining, so because they're professionals. But those pets are multiple, although you might see some of the same people. And the thing is, like I said, you don't have the supply unless you have the demand, and that's a big supply, so that means that there's a big demand for it. Okay, so those are different kind of people, and that's what I mean about spiritual poison. If somebody's doing something like that, that is a soul deep poison in your heart, in your soul, in your mind, your body, and your spirit. On all levels, that is a toxic poison. It is something you can't even, don't even let them touch you. I mean, I don't even want that. You can touch with your bare hands because you're gonna wash your hands off and you touch everything, anything. But I don't even suggest skin to skin contact of nothing but your front of your hands that you're gonna wash, because that's poison. And so that's among the reason I say don't even have sex with black people who have sex with white people. That's my point. There's a reason why I keep saying it. Don't have sex with black people who have sex with white people. I'll also add, don't even overly befriend black people who have friendships or deep friendships with currently white people. Okay? You can do business together, but you can't be in there deep. So, um, my real topic on this was white girl, but I had to uh, diverge a little bit and tell you why I'm saying some of the things I say, and that's among the reasons. So basically, how they get black men is that they work for them. And the next one is I'm going to talk about they do this work right in front of you, black female. And excuse my voice because I'm losing my voice today. So excuse it, but I can get through this. What they're doing, and by right in front of you, I mean that you are in the room or in the proximity. And like I said, I watch, I pay attention. Among the things I do is I ride the subway every day to work. When I go to work, I ride there to and from, and it's about a half-hour ride. And I see some stuff, but nobody knows I'm watching because I'm usually, got my face down reading, but I glance up. Among the one of them is a white girl, and I'm gonna tell you a little story of the white girl on the subway, the blonde. And this is my example of what how they do it right in front of you. Now, the way I'm gonna talk about the seating was that I like to sit toward the front. You ever been on a subway car and the middle doors have this? When you come into the middle doors, you got this big old open area, and then you got the priority seatings on both sides of the four doors. A subway car, to anybody who's never been on one, it's like a train car. It's long, skinny. It almost looks like or even a tractor trailer truck, but it's long and thin. It's got two sets of doors on both ends, on the right hand side and the left hand side, on both ends. And then it has two sets of doors in the middle section on the right hand side and left hand side. Depending on which side of the subway platform the car is going to be on, that's going to be the side of the door that's going to open. So that's why they have left hand side and right hand side doors, because the subway platforms might be on either side of those doors. Now, when you come into the doors, there's a big open area, and the part I'm talking about is the middle section. You know how a bus has the priority seating on the side, on the front side of the door? So it is with the subway doors. So the priority seating is where you step in the door and just sit down immediately next to the door. But the other cars, the other seats are on the side next to the windows. And so it's two seats next to the windows, and the windows are on the side of the doors. So the window, yeah, the aisle seats and the window seats. I usually sit on the first row be of the aisle seats. I mean, of the window seat. And this way I can get up and get out. I don't want to sit in the priority seat, but I sit on the first seat next to the window. So I can see the whole open area, plus the other side of the subway car across from me. One day I was sitting there reading, and this young um, wait, let me get the characters in place. Young white female on the car who's sitting in a seat kitty corner to me. She's sitting in the first row of the regular seats, also on the window seat, so she's almost kitty cornered to me. It's a fairly empty train car, so it was a lot of seating, but there were people in it. What happened was there's this young black couple that the subway car train stopped, and a young black couple came on. The boyfriend came was walking behind the girlfriend, and he was walking, and he had this walk that was in such a way that was extraordinarily sexy. He was a very masculine, sexually appealing, sensuous walk. But it was his natural walk, and it was just power and grace and sexuality. And I said, and as I glanced up, looking at him walk, because I saw him walk on, and then I said, did I really see that walk? And I glanced up again. Yeah, he's walking like that. Wow, what a walk. And I look back down and I think, wow, yeah, that was a walk. I didn't imagine that. How's he doing that? Wow, I don't know how he's doing that, but it's a nice stride, strut walk. And a few men walk like that. What a nice walk. And he was well built, like broad shoulder, narrow hips, nice proportions all around. And he was about like 25, maybe 30. And I said, well, but his back was to me. And I said, well, let me see if his face matches his body. Excuse me. He had a rather ordinary face, but it was handsome and well proportioned. And I looked at his girlfriend, and I looked at them both, and they were equivalent in looks. They were well matched, as I would say. Um, and so I decided that he was handsome and she was pretty, and they were well matched. They both sat next to each other, chit chatted a bit, and then they started looking at their devices, like the cell phone and the whatever thing that's in his hand. So both looking at their devices, playing games or whatever. And the girl is sitting down looking at her device. He was looking up, glancing around every once in a while, but he, for the most part, looking at his device too. But somewhere in there, the white girl who was sitting kitty cornered to me decided she wanted that man. And I am not imagining things. I thought I was, but I confirmed it. So the white girl did an opening salvo. As an opening salvo in war terms is firing the first shot, like you shoot your cannon or something. An opening salvo. And her opening is, guess what? Her opening salvo was. And that's my alert to know that there's something to see, something for me to connect the dots to. What she did was Say it with me. She did a hair toss. Yes, I saw an arc of blonde hair fly across the seat because she. And that's what it looks like when a white girl tosses their hair. All you see is this arc of hair, just this big old crescent of hair that flew. That she gave herself a hair toss, and that's when I knew to watch. So what she did was she had a little Starbucks, I think, green tea icy thing in her hand. But what she did was look in the mirror, or rather the window seat with that's highly reflective, so it's equivalent to a mirror. She was looking in the mirror on the aisle seat. I mean, on the seat across the aisle, and she was pretending to fix her hair. So she would run her fingers through her hair and do this little finger adjusting thing in her hair, but she was doing it like the whole ride. What she was doing was actually trying to catch his eye in that reflective surface so that she could signal something or another with him or make eye contact with him. I don't know what her next move would be, but I watched her fiddling and dealing with the hair. He wasn't taking it. He didn't look at her. He wasn't fooling with her. Um, she fiddled with the hair. She tossed it a few more times. He still didn't take it. The hair toss I figured out was an attention getting move. When a white girl wants you to look at her, she tosses her hair because movement attracts the eye. So she did that a few times. He still didn't look at her. And I would glance down and glance up at him every once in a while, seeing what she was doing. There were people, subway stops were happening, people getting on and off the subway. Things, things going on. Um, he still wasn't taking it. So finally, she started drinking out of a cup with a straw that was X-rated. I don't, she's got the straw going across her lips like something. I don't know. And he still ain't taking it. I don't know. He finally, I don't know what he did, look at her or something. And I looked up again and he's got his hand across the back rail on the back of her seat. And which is an unusual thing to do. It's not on the back of her seat, but on the back of the seat that's next to her, because she had turned sideways in her seat, so she's occupying both seats essentially. And so he could have easily dropped her business card or something there where she could call him if he wanted to. But she finally got to him. But I looked up and he had this really puzzled, confused look on his face, like he don't know why he's doing what he's doing. And I don't know if he actually gave her his card or not. And I suspect that he didn't because she kept going and doing all this stuff. I was flabbergasted and impressed. And finally, their stop came and they got off the train. And I said, okay, so maybe I was imagining stuff. Let's see this final test. And she failed the final test. She, as soon as they got off the train, her hair was fine. She didn't keep fooling with it no more. She didn't have no more need to look in the reflective surface. Her hair was ignored. She started drinking her drink like a normal person, where you put the straw in your mouth and slurp rather than roll it around your lips and your tongue like she was doing. So she essentially didn't do good on the final test. That's why I know she was messing with him or trying to. The thing is, his girlfriend was sitting right beside him the whole way. So I'm saying, sister, if the white girl done tossed her hair once, guard your man. Put blinders on him or do whatever you have to do. But yeah, guard your dude because girlfriend's coming after him. Don't trust them. They're doing it right in front of you. I can tell you another one. I could tell you endless ones, really. For example, I didn't. I put that in the dot file. I put that as a dot. but I didn't know what it meant. Just something to keep in mind. The second one, or rather, I put that in a dot. But before that, another one that I put in a dot was this. I was came out of work with a coworker who was male, nice African man, and we were walking and we got on the subway escalator to go down to the subway station platform area where the trains are. So we in the area where I live at in the DC area, we had there's a way you ride the subway in the DC area where the people who want to stand to the right. We essentially created two aisles on the subway, the standers and the walkers. The walkers walk on the left. So the standers stand on the right, and I'm a stander. And my friend decided to keep our conversation going, so he was standing. He was turned facing upwards, looking at me while while we're talking to each other. The walkers were coming down on our left. There was this blonde haired white girl that came down. And as he was talking to me, he froze in place and looked in her face. I mean, it was like a dog alerting on something you're hunting. You know, where they freeze and point with their nose. That's how he did looking at her. And I thought that was just the weirdest thing because, and then I concluded that the African men are very, very attracted to white women. And they are. Look at those web pages about white women coming to Africa to get men. Just Google that in and you'll see what I mean. And I'm not exaggerating. They got web pages dedicated to that where they talk about white women leaving Europe and going to Africa to get men and how they are getting them. I won't go into that a lot, but because I just be, you know, unfocused on not focusing on what I'm really talking about on this one right here. But yeah, Google those websites, look at them, look at the documentaries. Bunch of white women out of Europe, North Europe, coming to Africa and getting those beautiful men. And then they might have a quick vacation or they might stay a long time, but you have to have enough money to do it. So that's what's going on in Africa. Back to what I was talking about. This guy he alerted on her, as I call it, because he froze in place in mid sentence, stopped, and looked in her face. This lady who was walking down that on that subway though didn't know whether I was his girlfriend or not. He's a married man with a wife and kids. We were just talking about work, but she probably, but I'm suspect she didn't know that, and I think that she signaled him somehow um, to make him look at her and stop us. Because you look at somebody to stop to see what they got to say, and that's the way he looked at her. It was a strange look, and I never forgot that. And so that was a dot. And so what I'm saying is that they might signal something so subtle and fast that you won't even know it happened. Because I think she signaled to him at the time. I couldn't puzzle it out what it was going on. But now that I've seen some stuff since then, I kind of figured that she signaled somehow, and it could have been a subtle signal. Okay, so and she was right in front of me, and she didn't have no idea whether I was his girlfriend or wife or friend or what, but she signaled him, I think, signaled him right in front of me. So I'm saying, sister, the white girl will signal your man right in front of you, and you won't even know it unless you're paying attention. I have a friend that was paying attention. This this white girl, her and the family were at a party. Her and her husband were at this barbecue or party, and the way my friend described it was, she was over across the room, and the white girl touched his arm, saying, "Oh, you got muscles." And her husband said, "Oh," as she described it. He blushed and said, but way she talks about it, it said next thing she knows, she was across the room and in her face. Leave him alone, da da da. His old stupid butt, she's talking about her husband, old stupid butt, don't even know what's happening. He's giggling. And she cussed her out and said, "Oh, you just don't put your hands on him no more." And white girl, slunked away, but girlfriend was on it. that is how you deal with that. Because she was watching. She said she don't know how she got across that room, but next thing she knows, she was in that room and in her face. Okay, so she was on it, and she nipped that stuff in the bud. The subtle things I'm gonna call that I talk about is like the bread counter incident, which is another dot, and I'll give a little brief story about that. I was trying to find a good food supply, which I can't find. Desperate looking for a good wholesome food supply. In this case, I was in one of the organic stores, and I was at the bread counter because I decided I was going to get some bread. This tall, handsome black man in a business suit was had already made his order, and he was standing aside while the young lady, get it together. And she was a young blonde white female who was pretty, and she was just working the bread counter. He was talking on his cell phone, and I was waiting my turn to be helped. And so, meanwhile, she's sneaking these little glances at him, like she's looking down, supposed to be looking down what she's doing, but she's peeping up at him. He's not taking the bait. He's still talking on the cell phone to somebody, and she's spent her whole time peeping at him. If he were to, take her up on an offer, and that was an offer, he would have had her because she was offering herself to him. So that's subtle. These are all those little, what I call romantic cues. If you want to proceed, with your guy. Now, these cues are well known in the white society. Black men don't know the cues. They know when they're being sought after, but if that man asks her out, he'll think he was leading it. He'll think that he propositioned her. He won't understand that she was setting the stage for him all along the way in a subtle, sneaky, really aggressive, but it's passive. And I'm not the same kind of woman, so I just see how it looks, but I can't do it, and I don't know how to do it, and I don't really want to. So I think I got a mental block about doing that. Now, another incident on the subway, and these are white men. When I figured out that they knew the cues. Two white females. First off, I was riding on the subway in my usual seat, and these are three men in the big open area. They're standing up. Three men in the big open area standing up, holding on to the, rails and the hook things. And another man was sitting down. The black man was sitting down. He was sitting down in the first seat of the priority seat. It was a fairly empty train, except for these guys standing up and the one black man sitting down. The guys standing up, I don't know if they knew each other well, but they were, talking like strangers talk when they first meet each other. Just chit chatting the weather, this or the game that. Just a little bit of things. And they were standing. They weren't standing all up on each other or like they knew each other, but they might have seen each other before. And they were not unhandsome man. They were more than one age. I think the oldest was about 40 and the young was about 25. And it was about three of them. Two white girls came on. They had dark hair, and they sat in the priority seats on the other side of the door, same side that the black man's sitting on, in the area close to where I was sitting. And I'm in my priority seat. I mean, in the seat on the window seat next to the priority seats. They sat right in front of me, so they're sitting to the facing. If you were to do it, they are perpendicular to me. I think it's the word where I'm like if you picture an upside down T, I'm the bottom part of the T, and they're the stick that sticks up from the T. Okay, so the one that I'm gonna be talking about was the one that was sitting closest to me. All I could see was the back of her head, but she was talking to a friend who was beside her, so she was facing her friend and facing away from me. The men were facing toward me, toward the not toward me, but toward the doors that they just came in. I knew that something was up when she reached and started twisting the curl in her hair as she was talking to her friend, because she just reached and started twirling the curl in her hair. But what happened was that the men stiffened and started looking down at their devices and newspapers. They wouldn't look at her. That means their body language was real hard and cold and stiff and withdrawn. They shut down, really. They shut down. They stopped their little interaction with each other and just stood rigid straight and looked away from her while she talked to her friend. And I said, well, which one of, because when I started meddling, I saw where she was twisting her hair, right? And I said, oh, well, which one of them does she like? Because I was going to try to figure it out. And then that's when I looked at them and saw they were stiff and looking away. I said, "Oh, they don't like her. They don't want none of that." My dot was that I connected was white men already know the signals and they know how to react to get out of them. They were raised with these little girls. They know these girls. She couldn't get no play from them. They didn't want her. They decided they didn't like her. So she sat there and twisted her hair and did all these signals, but they didn't take it. They didn't want no part of her. Now, and I said, okay, for the final test. When the one she liked got off the subway, she stopped twisting her hair. So that was the final test. And that's when I knew she was flirting. And this kind of interaction happens all day long. The next topic is this. These are the fairy princesses. Among the things they do to get somebody is create a rescue situation. Our media, and I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. Our media and all of our communications set these kind of girls up as advertising. That's a form of advertising. All of this media, commercials, TV shows, movies, they are advertising the white girl as an ideal female. She's not, but they're creating a an advertising for her. Just like if you need a certain anything, they advertise for it. So they sell it. And that's what they're selling her as, an ideal female. And among those are the fairy princesses type female, where they create rescue situations. This could be in a workplace, in a social situation, all kind of things. But that's part of the romantic cue. A rescue situation is this. I have two black male friends. One of them was dating a white girl. The other one was his friend who would come over there. And the one that was dating her would be cussing her out and acting like he wanted to beat on her. I believe he did want to beat on her, and I'm sorry to say. And they both telling me. I mean, the one that's my friend was telling me about it, and he was, just telling me about it, trying to rationalize, get ready to steal his friend's girlfriend, I believe. But he was talking about how his friend acts like he gonna beat on her and stuff. And then finally, I asked because I had already decided not to that black people shouldn't date white people, and this was way back in the '90s. I said, if it wasn't for you, I mean, if it wasn't for him, would she be dating you? And he said, yes, it's possible. And I said, so what the deal is that you don't know what kind of signals what kind of reaction they have when you're not around. But whatever it is, she has done something to let him know that it's true that she wants to date you. And he had to think about that because he's talking about they not dating and they not doing this, that, and the other. But what the girlfriend did was created a rescue situation where the one who's the suitor is wanting to pull off the one that's dating her, so he's rescuing her, and he's really interested in her. I call that the damsel in distress. In distress. Other places you do it is like at work. They create situations where you have to cuss them out, and somebody's got to pull you off of them, essentially, and that could be the boss or anybody. But anyway, it's a rescue situation, and they do that 1,000 ways. And that's part of Western romantic cues where you rescue the damsel and then you get the girl. Now, next topic is black women are not white women. Black women have long since learned nobody's going to rescue us, so we had to fight our own battles. We don't really go to somebody and whine about what somebody else did to them. We gonna come at you ourselves for the most part. And so we walk right into white girl traps. And not only walk in, we walk in loudly and boldly. And I've learned a little bit about how not to walk in their traps, and that's just simply not to fool with them. But they be laying traps for you endlessly, because they're gonna make you be the bad guy and they be the good guy, and they get rescued and sympathy, and you are standing there dumbfounded, don't know what happened. And a lot of times this can make you lose your job. If you get in a confrontation with a white girl and she goes whining to somebody about what happened, then you essentially get a write up or lose your job or suspended and stuff. This has happened. White girl started arguing with a black female at work. Said something stupid. Black female hauled off a slapper. Next thing you know, the white girl's suspended, but the black girl's fired. So if you do haul off and slap them, keep punching so that you can get your money's worth, because you're going to be fired. Or better yet, just don't fool with them. Really, just steer clear, don't fool with them. If they come at me about something I might have said, I'm going to turn it right back on them and say something like, I didn't, something like, I don't know why she meant it like that, because only reason I don't talk to her is because she gossips. I don't participate in gossip. Because there was this one white girl that was obvious I didn't want to talk to, and if she ever felt the need to go to the office and say that she was uncomfortable or feeling bad, or she thinks I don't like her or whatever, and gets me pulled in the office explaining why I don't really say two words to her except hi and bye, and that is all I say, then I was going to say she once tried to gossip to me. Because once in a situation where she leaned forward and gonna tell me some secret about somebody, who was not doing something that she thought they should be doing, and I just basically walked away from her. I'm gonna put that out there that she was trying to gossip to me, and I just don't want nothing I say to be twisted into gossip, so I don't say anything, because it's not right to gossip when you should be working. That was going to be my alternate. That was going to be my reaction if she ever did try to say anything like that or try to set me up. And that's going to be my reaction in most cases when they try to set me up. It's going to be something like that, because I just feel like she gossips unnecessarily, and it's not right when we should be working. That's the kind of thing I was going to say. And so my next topic is just talking about women aren't white women, and deal with it. We aren't them. They aren't us. We're living in a society controlled by them at this time, but we don't have to really spend that much time fooling with them if we don't want to, except for at work. At work, yeah, you be hospitable, friendly, and all of that stuff, and not set yourself up for problems. Excuse me a minute. I'm back. Yeah, and at work, you just try not to set yourself up for problems. But for regular stuff, day to day things, don't even let them in your house. Don't sit down. And I would recommend that you not let them in your house unless you have to, like they got to come repair something. But keep them going. And individually, honestly, they're perfectly nice people. But behind the scenes, you don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, and that's what you got to worry about. Right now it's the Monday after Donald Trump's tape came out about all the little junk he was saying in that trailer about women. But when he got out of that trailer, he gave no indication that he said or thought anything like that. Let that be a lesson to you that behind the scenes people could be saying and doing anything, but when they come to your face, they don't give an indication that they were saying that. And he didn't give any indication that he was saying anything like what he said in that car to that in front of that actress that was he was introduced to. Pay attention to that. Just like you won't get any indication that they said this mean stuff, but yet the whole society will show it. That's something to pay attention to. Okay, that's all. I'm gonna talk later Excuse me. I'm gonna talk later about how black men are not white men. My black men are not like white men, are not white men, and we will also have to deal with that too. So this ain't black men bashing, but it is gonna be talk about both sides of the story that in my mind. So black women ain't white women. We just got to deal with it and use our strengths to our advantage over them. My final thought is this, which I'm going to address more fully when I talk about white men, is that real sisters can get a white man anytime she wants. She don't have to do nothing special. White men are begging us to date them. I'm in my 60s. A 20-year-old white man just propositioned me not too long ago on the subway. If I had a gave any indication I was willing, we would have he would have happily jumped the bones. And they are I don't have a libido. I don't even want none. But he would have happily had sex, and anything else I would have been willing to give time. He would have happily done it. So I get propositioned by white men pretty often, and I'm in my 60s, and these are men in all age groups because they want to hump. And that's what they do. They want to be humping women, and real sisters, especially when you're not really interested in them, they are at your feet. So, all of the stuff about how to attract a white man, that's a different kind of woman feeling the need to go through a lot of effort to attract a white man. And not only a white man, these are just plain old ordinary looking dudes. You don't want no. So yeah, I'm gonna talk more about that later. Bye bye. That's all for now. My voice is going. I gotta go get some food. So I'll see you later on the next one.